Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. It is Friday. Well, for us, it's Thursday. We're looking at this Friday slate in the NBA, though, with a bunch more games to choose from. The NBA is back with a vengeance here with a ton of stuff on Thursday and Friday. So we're going to be looking at some best bets in this video. Also going to have a player props one up as we do each and every weekday. So go ahead and like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. And head to thelines.com as well to make sure that you're getting everything we're putting up on the site right now, including that prop finder tool to make sure you have the best odds available to you from all these books that are giving us bets this season. Nate, I feel like we did pretty well here. I know I swept the best bets here on Thursday night. We know that. But yeah, how did you do? And then let's get into your first best bets.
Well, got the Magic for sure. Donnie was
yeah.
scratched. So, but I mean, either way, it seemed like they were going to cover.
Yep.
And yet to tip off with that Spurs Kings under. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, moving on to Friday here. And I will take the Suns to bounce back from a loss here in Dallas, as they only have to go to Houston on the back-to-back. Houston will also be on a home back-to-back. Looks like they're going to lose handily to the Pelicans here. But watching this, at least KD is okay, because that is basically the main source of my argument here is that KD is a monster on back-to-backs. He's just like unaffected. It's the whole like low load frame, like he just doesn't take the same kind of impact that other people take because he's so freaking skinny that he's able to go the next night. And he throughout his career, he has great numbers on back-to-back. This year he's been carrying because Devin Booker has not brought it on back-to-backs, but KD is 31 points per game on nearly 70% true shooting. And that is why the Suns are 7-2 on back-to-backs this year. The Rockets are 2-8, including 4 straight losses, while the Suns won 3 straight. And I mean, it's like, what is their secret to success? The Suns, obviously the mid range, but it's also getting to the free throw line. And why is that huge on a back to back? It gives you a breather. It gives these stars an opportunity to get in the zone. And what we saw with KD is he does frequently. So they're getting 32 free throws versus just like 24, which is still good on normal rest, but 32 free throws a game on these back to backs. And that's Houston's Achilles heel. They gave up the third most free throws per game here. I mean, Suns went into the break really hot, 14-4 at the end. The Rockets limped into the break. They were missing Fred VanVleet, and now they have him back. But I don't think that's like a total game changer here comparatively. I mean, the Suns might get Beal back after he sat the front end of the back-to-back. And really, I mean, let's just throw some respect at Dallas. Like, Dallas is about to be a freaking juggernaut now that they have legitimate defenders down there, that they have Kyrie and Luka picking it up. Like, that is a team, that is a buzzsaw they ran into right out of the break. And so I expect the Suns to turn around and handle a Rockets team that they beat in Houston in December. KD picked them apart. Rockets shot unsustainably well from deep, and they just haven't been shooting well since then. Not at all, in fact, from 3 leading into this break. So, just give me the Suns by 3.
Yeah, I was going to take that, and I'm happy to actually just add the over to that as well at 228.5. Everything that I'm seeing here definitely leans to the over pretty heavily, actually. And it starts with exactly what you're talking about, the free throw line. For both of us, that is exactly what I think the most important statistic of this game is. The Suns have been attacking the rim and getting to the free throw line at the second highest rate over their last 5, third highest over their last 10. So it's been pretty consistent recently. And then the Rockets are dead last in that, and they continue to be that. They've been a little bit better. I think they're 4th worst in their last 5, so slight improvement, but still 4th worst there with that opponent free throw rate. That's huge for this over. It's a big reason why they went over in the last game that they played at Houston, which is the last 2 games that they played, actually, were both at Houston and won this season. And then you also just look at the Houston at home stuff. As of late, Houston with Fred VanVleet, they play faster by about 1 possession more per 100 with Fred in there, and he did miss a bunch of games before coming back, as we know. Didn't really help them, obviously, against the Pellies, as we mentioned, but the other part of having Fred there is honestly just a lack of above-the-break defense as well, and Phoenix with KD and company are kings of that as well in terms of taking some fast break above the above the break threes, and just even in the half court as well. Playing at the number 2 pace, over about 104 in the last 5 games for Phoenix, and third highest over their last 10 as well. So really continuing that. They have dipped a smidge in the offensive rating category there, just a little bit worse than they have been on the season, down to about 14th over their last 5. But that's just a really small sample size that I'm not as concerned with for them with some of the teams that they played in their last 5, like a couple really good Western Conference teams that really kept the games to around 225 or so for them. But in this one, we're also talking about Houston on no rest. And even if they are at home on no rest this season, we're talking about games averaging about 235 for them, right? They've given up about a buck 22 in the games that they've played on the second leg of those back-to-backs, scoring about 114 or so in that time frame as well. But I do think it's the Suns that are going to do the bulk of the scoring. If you wanted to stick to their team total as the way to go here, I think that's fine with such a small spread. It's not like it's out of control in any way. You can definitely lean on that a bit more than Houston necessarily coming along for the ride. That would be the only thing that would scare me is like, are they going to score another 100? What they're probably on pace for about 105 to 110 right now against the Pelicans, who have been really good on defense. We should specify as well. So I'm not too worried about that. We also talking about Houston on the road in this one, back at home where they're a bit better on offense for the game that they'll play on Friday. So I'm taking both of those bets. The over, and I like them to win by 3.5, and probably a little sprinkle on the parlay there.
Yeah, I mean the thing with FVV back is less Amon Thompson, right? And
Yeah,
and he is a big plus on defense and pretty woeful trying to shoot the ball. So I
not
mean
good.
that's definitely going to help your over. Yeah, play faster, get a guy out there who can organize the offense and score. And yeah, with all these foul issues, like is Dylan Brooks gonna be out there guarding KD down the stretch? Like he easily could foul out without question here. And yeah, the one thing the Suns were giving up, like their defense has been great during this stretch, but they are still third in paint points allowed. It's Nurk, not necessarily being consistent at all, and Şengün, as we know, has been a monster at times. So that could help Houston keep pace here because the Suns are going to score. So I'll go under here in Philly, which would be an absolute smash. Like as soon as you can watch this and bet it and hope Donovan Mitchell does not play on the second leg of a back to back here, because if the Cavs don't have Donnie, this total is way too high at 229 and a half. I mean, even with him, that's not really their MO to play games in the 230s. And maybe the Sixers price is still kind of baked in that they had a couple spike games. They had a spike game against Cleveland, and maybe that's why this number is so high. But like if you look at every other game with the Sixers except for when Maxey had 50, like they're going under like a mother without Joel Embiid here. I mean, they're averaging 111. They're playing at a 96 and a half pace, under in 5 of the last 7. Under in 5 of the last 6 back-to-backs, and 7 of 10 on the season by 10 points per game. And how many of those back-to-backs are just, Joel Embiid couldn't play. So like that's an obvious correlation right there. They are home dogs here for the 6th time all season. They've gone under by 9 points per game in those there. And yeah, I mean, if Donnie's out, Cavs score 3 points per game less. They also play a little bit slower, 94 and a half pace. But let's just, like, that game 123 121, we talked about it in the show a couple times. Like, for some reason we think the Sixers are going to cover. This is going to be like a random Kelly Oubre game where he just gets hot. And yeah, they have, I think, 4 guys around 20 points, and it's just not that kind of matchup for them in general. Like, Buddy Hield does have good numbers against the Cavs. I mean, he just does what he does against everybody. He shoots 40% from 3 if you can get him open. But like Maxey and Tobias Harris have not had success against this Cavs team, which doesn't surprise me. They give up almost nothing at the rim. They're number 1 in field goal percentage, opponent paint points, number 1 defense, period. Last 19, 14 unders in that stretch, 9 and 4 to the under as road faves. And yeah, I mean, Maxey, we've talked about it as well. 20 points worse is his offensive rating without Embiid. He just cannot carry this team to the same degree as a number 1 option, especially when you get the Cavs and Okoro. Especially if Donnie Mitchell is out, you get more Okoro all over Maxey all day at the point of attack, and then those 2 twin towers behind to clog things up behind them.
Yeah, I'm with it. Such an anomaly. I was thinking, like, what if that's just gonna be a thing now? that this like Embiid-less 76ers team beats the Cavs for some reason. It's just really about Donnie Mitchell though for me. And I would say, if the way that the Knicks and 76ers game went here on Thursday, it should definitely be an indication of what's going to be coming here for the 76ers team as they await the return of their big man, because they're going to continue to struggle scoring points. And it almost felt like for the Cavs, it was like such a like I think where your feeling was coming from in that one was like the Cavs are not taking this seriously. They're going to underestimate this 76ers team. And it was such an anomaly. Max didn't even have a freaking good game. And they're going just scoring, like you said, going off. So, yeah, I can't possibly just like see this becoming a trend because there was really no, supporting evidence for why it was. It was just one of these freak things that happened. And I wouldn't expect the pace to stay that way, especially without Donnie. But we'll see what happens with him. So,
Yeah, and coming off a loss as well tonight, so they will certainly have their antennae up on the back to back.
yeah, 100%. That's that. I'm not going to call it a bad loss by any means, but it would have been great to have Donnie Mitchell for them in that one to come back and win their first game back. And we'll see what happens with that Cavs team. They're going to be interesting, but under would be a good way to sort of fade them continuing to do so right now. But let me go to another under as well here, Nate, and finish with Milwaukee at Minnesota. It's 224.5. That's what I'm taking the under here for. And I can understand if you want to take Minnesota. I think a winning streak is coming for this Milwaukee team soon enough. They've been, I think, about 10 to 15 games above 500 level team for the majority of the season through a short, only 50 games or whatever at this point. And that's, then they had this losing streak. Things get switched up, whatever. And now I think there is going to be some sort of regression back to, progression back to the mean, if you will, for them at this point. So I'm not as comfortable taking the Timberwolves, even though they're at home. That would be the play. I'm just slightly more comfortable, honestly, with the under here because of the situation, which is Milwaukee continuing to play a lot slower and definitely playing a lot more defense and a lot less offense. 111 offensive and defensive rating for this team over their last 5 and really their last 10 or so, for which Doc has been the coach for most of those. And that's just a clear moment in time that things changed a bit for them. For Minnesota, we're now talking about let's call them the best defensive team at home. In their last 10, their defensive rating has actually jumped a bit, and it's still the best in the league over their last 10. 106 defensive rating in that time frame, and we've just seen them continue to sort of overcome this expectation that they're going to start falling by the wayside, and they haven't done so. They actually signed Mike Conley to another 2 years because they realized how absolutely important he was to that team as a throwaway piece in that trade, which was wild, and now he's just such an awesome point guard for them. But that also actually has been the surprising thing about Conley, has also been his individual defensive rating. Like, he's always been good. He's never been a liability, but he's been like a staunch reason for them to be as good around the perimeter these days as they have been. He's still continues to be that pest above the break that they didn't really have. I mean, when they had Pat Bev, that was one of their things. And then when he was gone, it was sort of the only sort of hole in their defense. It was the reason that Rudy was getting into foul trouble last year and sort of out of position consistently. And now he's just not, man. And so now the last thing I would put in here is like, when you look at these teams with rest, right, and at least 3 days of rest in this case, because the only other time they've had like a week of rest obviously was before the season started, so it was only 1 game sample size there. But when you talk about at least 3 days of rest for this team, they are 4-5 to the over. They're going under way more frequently. I mean, slightly more frequently, but we're also talking about them going averaging about minus 3 points, 3 points less than the total is on average when they're in these games. And then for Milwaukee, the same concept. They also have gone under a number of times as well. Really, it was before, the only other times that they've had 3 days of rest was before Doc got there, so it's not quite as easy to gauge for them. But for Minnesota, we're talking about an average score of about 211, 212 in those games where they get 3+ days of rest. And then on the road as well for Milwaukee, you can bank on them being a little bit worse, at least in the last 10 games or so, like I was saying, is the sample size that I'm using for them, and how that they played on the road. Defense, at home, that's also been pretty low. It's not like it's been crazy. They've been playing more slowly, and also way worse on offense and way better on defense over those last 10, regardless of which building they're in. So I just think it's another good opportunity to go under 224.5 and keep this thing around like 219, 220.
Yeah, it makes a couple things make me nervous about this. I mean, number one is the adjustment period for Doc Rivers to maybe try to fix the offense. After going 3-7 and clearly putting a little too much emphasis in getting back and getting stops, is like maybe they come out of the break with a little bit of a different style. Also, Dame finding his stroke in the All-Star game and All-Star weekend, which is a weird thing to say because it's usually the
It is.
opposite with like home run derby. It's like, oh, he blew himself out. But I mean, maybe that's like the confidence boost he needs. Maybe he comes out. And I did look up just now. His last time he faced Mike Conley, 60 points against the Utah Jazz and Mike Conley. So he is capable of cooking him individually. But for me, yeah, no, I will still take the Wolves, the team with the best record against teams with winning records this season, a team that is tailor made to slow down Giannis and is just lights out defensively at home. So I probably lean a little bit more to the Wolves than the under here, but I understand the logic for sure. Just a little nervous.
I feel you. Maybe I can help calm your fears really quickly by saying you just said Doc Rivers is going to draw up some offense that's going to be helpful. So that was a little bit funny to me. And then we are also talking about Mike Conley on a different team anyway. I don't know that he's going to be the one guarding Dame in this game. I think that they can put him on a Pat Connaughton, right, and to that degree, even a Malik Beasley, and just take away the shooter. And maybe he's up there up top, and they're still playing a little bit of that switch D on the perimeter anyway with Mike Conley. But he has been playing a bit better, and I understand that fear. So either way, I'm not gonna poo-poo a -4.5 bet. You keep an under -5 bet here for Minnesota at home against pretty much anybody, man. And I might jump on it. It stands like 2 or 3 teams. So that is all the time though that we have for you in best bets. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page, and check out the Playa Props that we also have up each and every weekday. Until we see you next, happy betting.